here. It's about a week early. We know we'll have a few people jumping in live. We know we'll have a lot more that'll watch later on. This is the first time we've done one of the visual guides in a live format, and we thought with this convention specifically it worked maybe best because so many questions have come up when we've done the talks in the recent weeks. A lot of things changed, a lot of late announcements, things like that. So we'll try for this format this time around D23 Expo. We do a visual guide every time D23 Expo returns, kind of in the vein of all the ones we do with San Diego Comic-Con and things like that. So we have a whole pace and a script and stuff, but if you are in the live chat, feel free to throw out questions or comments to help others as well as we go along. Any tips you have. Wanted to, off the top, though, start and just kind of apologize. We were supposed to do this on Tuesday. We had it all planned out, had the time well in advance. We wanted to give people about, a day's notice so that if they wanted to listen live or watch live that they could. But we did have a family emergency, so my stepfather had to be hospitalized. Very difficult situation. Thankfully, he is getting better, which is awesome, fantastic, amazing. But it was pretty grim and scary there on Tuesday, so we definitely couldn't do that. And we've been gone for a few days, but now we're back. And coincidentally, definitely not planned, as we come in today to do the video, we've got the big banner up in front of the convention center here. And also, interestingly, Spider-Man joins as the representation from Marvel. If you followed along when we first came out to post pics of the banners going up along the streets of Anaheim here, it was just interesting because all of the characters from the various representations, Mando from Star Wars and things like that, the big one that was missing was anything from Marvel, and it seemed odd not to have Marvel included. There's still no Marvel in this whole thoroughfare over here, but there is a couple small Spider-Man banners up here, and obviously he's up there. So for whatever reason, Spider-Man and Marvel are a lot less apparent than the other characters, but they are all out here at the end of the day. So
apparently your connection's cutting in and out. So
connection's cutting in. Okay. Well, hopefully that will improve. This is like as good as it gets here. There's not been anybody around, so hopefully it'll hang in there. So.
Did you acknowledge that I'm here too?
Yeah, Carmel's here with us, and so she'll be able to kind of field questions as well and help make sure hopefully they don't forget anything here and grab those things. As I said, so we've been going to D23 Expo since 2011. Had a lot of experience with the show. If you are someone brand new to the convention and brand new to us, you may not know we cover a lot of conventions, like a ton of conventions. Like the biggest year we covered like 60 that year, and that ranges from very small one-room shows to giant shows like San Diego or this one or Star Wars Celebration and things like that. So we'll talk about some of those experiences and just what we know about D23 as of now. Now, that being said, if you haven't already checked out the app, you'll want to do that. The app still has a lot to be updated there. In fact, just seconds before going on, we checked a variety of areas that still say things like this area will be updated the weeks leading up to D23 Expo. And obviously now we're down to about a week left here, so a lot of information is going to be hitting there to kind of flesh some of these things out. As somebody that covers the convention, though, we also know that with any of these big conventions, it's great to share information. So if you're watching later, you can throw comments in the comments section to help people out if you're willing to do that. And if you're live, you can help people out here too, because we know there's a lot of people out there that maybe aren't going to do a visual guide, but have great tips as well. And so we never think that like we have all the tips. It's just kind of we're the people that seem to want to put together the videos often to do these types of things. So if you've not been to D23 Expo before, one very important thing, we know a lot of people that have gone from other conventions like a San Diego and then come to D23 Expo. And something to understand is the word Expo really is important about the show. It very much is a celebration of like this show, of all things Disney, of their brand. So it's more of like kind of a commercial for all things Disney rather than a collection of various things. And so it is very specific on like the branding of Disney, and it just has a kind of a different vibe. I mean, it's a very corporate show, no surprise there, but it just does have a little bit of a different feel to it. Even to that extent, to give one example that I think catches some people by surprise, is in the cosplay rules, you have to wear a Disney related property. Like no Batman allowed, no Harley Quinn. I mean, I don't know if anybody's going to grab you and kick you out, but it says very clearly in the cosplay rules it needs to be something from, Pixar, Disney, Star Wars, Marvel. I've never attended another convention that has that sort of specifications in their guides and things. So those are the types of things, some things that are very interesting about the show. Make sure, to pack your patience. There are a lot of things that can change with this type of a big convention. And particularly coming back from the pandemic, we've seen it over and over again that things can have hiccups, and D23 Expo has had troubles in the past kind of getting everybody into the convention center, and so you just got to kind of be ready for some of those things, and we'll talk and start moving around at some of the entry points and things like that in a second here. One other thing we wanted to note is please know the Anaheim Convention Center is now cashless, so if you haven't attended a convention here since the pandemic, no cash, and they actually stipulate even that they don't have ATMs even available during the convention here for D23 Expo. So it doesn't mean that all of the exhibitors on the floor are going to be cashless necessarily, but it does mean it sounds like there's not going to be any cash to be found on the floor itself. So make sure to have the cards ready, or if you're going to bring cash, make sure to bring that ahead of time and hit an ATM on the way in. Unlike every other visual guide I believe we've done for D23 Expo, this time it is sold out. Normally when we're doing this visual guide, there are still tickets available for at least like Sunday. This time it's quite the opposite. Not only is it sold out, we're seeing a lot of people online looking for badges for Sunday. The transfer process has already ended there. It is important to make sure for those of you that are attending that your badge activation is all clear. That should have already happened. You will want to go to d23expo.com/activate to make sure that your badge is lined up with the reservations, because as we are recording this, we still don't have the information in terms of what we won in the reservation process, and so what panels, experiences on the floor, things of that nature. But that's going to be coming, and especially if you're a big family with a bunch of badges and it's just like several adults in the party or things like that, it's going to be important to know who has what so that you're able to check in for everything okay there.
Everything under the umbrella is asking, do you think they sold less tickets this year? They sold out, the sellout was so fast.
I don't think so. I think it probably was the same. To be honest, I mean, I have nothing to back that on. All I know, like somebody with the Power Rangers convention we were just at, they're like, oh, there was less people are afraid to travel. We've seen very few conventions that have been less attended. You know, there's been a few, but it doesn't seem like the phase that Disney is in. Like right now, Disney seems very much about trying to, keep the monies coming in as many ways as they can. So I'd be very surprised to learn that they lowered attendance. And if they did, I would really think they'd be trumpeting that and like advertising that of like, this is a measure we're taking, we want to have less people or things like that to improve the fan experience. So because there was no advertisement that they sold less badges, and because they are seeming to really try to churn out as much product as they can these days, I'm guessing it's normal attendance.
Well, and also the demand has been so high in general for a lot of the big shows that it's kind of not surprising that people are wanting to go to the shows and stuff, because that's what we're seeing a lot. So
a lot of people want to go. So, okay, so let's actually move around a little bit to talk about some of the entry points here. So the first thing we really want to get into, since the nuts and bolts, is just kind of getting into the convention. So we'll make our way and just kind of orient ourselves, because we know some people that are watching are very familiar with this. They could be down here doing their own video of all this, but there's also people that are going to watch this and have never been to the Anaheim Convention Center, never been to D23 Expo. So behind me here is the entryway. You might even see on the D23 Expo app, when you like open it up, it shows like millions of people in the middle waiting to get in. That is that spot right there as part of it. The expo itself, they're going to use a lot of different access points to kind of shuffle people away. I know one year we were over in the north building in the bottom area, kind of down an escalator, and they processed us that way. So there'll be a bunch of different ways that people are coming in. But very important to note, they are saying they're doing a bag check and metal detectors. Also, they've said no food or drink allowed. So those are some big things. Now, I know the question that always comes with that, with any convention, is, well, are they going to really enforce it? And I wish we knew. Like, I literally wish we knew every convention. I've been to conventions, Carmel's been to conventions where we've seen people, we've seen a Mandalorian forced to dump out his empty his water bottle out, But we've also been to places where we see people carrying in Taco Bell and bags of chips and stuff like that. So the rules, though, are the rules. It's no outside food or drink. A note also, if you didn't come out to Star Wars Celebration, something that I know is a little worrisome to Carmel and I, is the convention center setup really struggled with food and drink, just in general. They did bring food trucks in over here, but there was just nowhere near enough food and drink options for attendees. And also, various hotels, like over here we have the Hilton. Not that they ever had a ton of food options, but they used to have, a nice little food court in there that were at least some options. It has, since the pandemic, really thinned out, and also the prices have really bumped up. So like, we used to go to Submarina there. It used to be one of our tips. We loved going there. The new place that took its place, I think it's like 777 Deli. We haven't really been a fan of the look of the sandwiches, and they are way more expensive than what we were paying even back then. So it was a struggle during Star Wars Celebration. We're not sure what to expect. Labor shortage as well. A lot of the local, like even the restaurants were closing earlier. So like one night, Celebration, we hadn't eaten by 9 o'clock at night. We walked like blocks and blocks down to go to some hotel down the street to eat. So be careful with that. It's tough, and we don't really have any easy solutions. If you can't bring food and drink in, and they don't have enough food and drink inside, it's going to be challenging and lead to some big lines there. Best I can say is to try to eat off hours. I know that's something we'll try to do, is try to find some of those soft spots where less people are eating. Everyone's going to want to eat at noon. When big panels end, a lot of people are going to flood out and want to go get food right then. So try to maybe time some of those things.
A couple things.
Okay.
So Night Bodega said he finally made a live stream, so he said hi.
Hi. Hello.
And then Disney Fan 2005 said, I hope Disney announces that Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters will be staying during the Tomorrowland overhaul.
Okay.
And then Jason Azus, maybe, said, so I can cosplay as Indiana Jones, right? And can bring a whip into the convention as part of my costume?
So they do have a, what do they call it? They don't call it peace bonding, but a lot of conventions call it peace
Weapons
bonding, the
check
weapons check and things like that. So they will check those things. I know we've found a lot of times those can vary at conventions too, as well as what's allowed, but I would imagine that that's okay. I mean, Indiana Jones definitely would fit in the Disney family in every way, shape, and form there. But double check also in the days leading up all of the details, because there may be answers that all of a sudden pop up even the day of the convention. Not that that's going to really help out after you're already driving down here or you're already in a hotel, but it is something that sometimes those nuanced things pop up as people bring them up or as those issues actually come up.
Let's see, Night Bodega said, I know Jack in the Box was closed by 7 p.m. one day. And then Christian Hernandez said, the D23 map has 5 entry points. Do you think they will open all those entry points, or do you think all of those entry points will be open at 5 a.m. or, oops, sorry, lost it. Or will the entry by the fountain open first?
I think that would be my guess, yeah. That would be my guess, is the entry at the fountain will be first, and they'll layer those in a little bit later, maybe 7, 6:30, something like that. It's just a guess, obviously, and we know these things can vary, but of course. One thing to note on that too, the hours of the convention are 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., like the official hours. And it's interesting on Sunday, and we've had a lot of success in that 5 to 7 spot on Sunday, because a lot of people are pretty much done by then. So just something to note, if you are able to stay until close on Sunday and you're at the con, a lot of opportunities present themselves those last couple hours on Sunday. So I think a lot of people miss that sometimes. In the convention world, usually cons are finishing by 4 or 5 mostly in our world, at least on Sunday. So the fact that they go those extra 2 hours, there's a lot of different exclusives we've picked up that we're like, well, we're not going to, like the big, really hard to get at the time Disney Elite series, Star Wars Elite from the Disney Store one. Like, we wanted it, couldn't get it, couldn't get near it, and then all of a sudden 6:30 on Sunday, they're like waving like, hey, come here and buy this thing. We don't want to pack it up, you know. And so those things come, and so it's just something to note if you're able to say. And I know a lot of people aren't. They're either going to be flying out, they're heading to the parks, they're going back getting ready for work. I know for us it's going to be hard to want to stay just because you've got to get ready for work in the morning, but it is something to kind of note there for those things. And then real quick, so as there's going to be the checks here. We're going to have tons of people all over lined up. As we're looking at the front of the convention center here, the access for the main entrance is what they're really saying. But there'll be different queues. So as you're coming in, and this I know can be very frustrating, is I could get there a half hour after Carmel, and she got put over there, and I get put over here. And then when it comes time to get in, I managed to end up in a better spot than she did, even though she beat me here by 30 minutes. I know that drives convention attendees nuts. I know it's a guessing game, but it is something that happens at the cons that have a lot of access points where they're queuing people in different areas. We don't see it so much at San Diego usually. It's pretty much set there that you know. I don't feel like that comes up very often, but we do see it particularly at the bigger cons, particularly at a con this size, with such competition. So many people wanting to get on the floor for exclusives and various experiences and things like that. So it is tough to know. We have been in the spot before where we've had people that we beat people here by an hour, and they ended up on the floor before us because we just ended up in a queue that just did not move the same time, whatever happened with communication. And so those are scary things that happen. Remember to try to keep it all in perspective. I'm hoping all of us coming out of the pandemic, it's like, okay, let's put it in perspective. It's frustrating, but like at least we're here. We've got an event. There was a lot of time, Carmel and I would come down here and we weren't even allowed to stand out here during the parts of the pandemic where everything was like shut down. Like security would already be kicking us out just for being this near to the convention center. So one quick thing, if you are a D23 Expo member, a gold member, there has been like priority seating for panels. There's been a lounge. Those things are TBD. There's not been anything said that those are happening as of now that we have come across, and trying to look at a number of places. So it's something to monitor. It does say more will be announced as well. So far, what they do have announced is D23 Gold members will receive special benefits throughout the weekend, including exclusive discounts, offers, a commemorative gift, and more. So not sure what the more is. You have to have your physical card or you have to have it in the app. Stay tuned for more announcements, they've said. Now, we found the D23 Expo card to help even at booths that were not, one of the primary booths. So definitely suggest keeping that card with you if you're a D23 Expo member, and make sure to get your gift. I forget what was it, like a Steamboat Willie print or something like that in 2019. Whatever it was like, okay, this is kind of a cool little gift we were able to get on, I think, the Thursday before the con or something like that. So, all right. Reservations are still TBD, so we still, at least for us and everybody we know, we're all waiting to see what we got tomorrow, and maybe later than tomorrow, but it should start being announced tomorrow. That obviously is going to impact strategy quite a bit. Now, we don't know exactly how all of these things are going to work on the floor. They've said there'll be virtual queues. They've said that the Disneyland app is going to be useful. The way we're picturing it is there's going to be some of these activations, as well as obviously the store where you're going to go up and use your phone, take a picture, QR code it into the app, and then you're going to be able to book a spot for later in the day. So when you first hit the floor, that may be a priority. Whatever is your first day at the con, I think for us it's going to be trying to figure out where are these QR codes. Hopefully we get the info ahead of time, but we don't always. D23 has been pretty quiet in past years about exclusives and things. Like we know right now the Big Pin exclusives have been being announced. Funko has announced theirs, but a lot of the exclusives that are specifically in the Disney shops can be very quiet, and we don't always know them. I mean, in the past, we kind of were learning them as the sorcerers were coming out with their big bags filled with stuff, and we're like, okay, that's what's going on there. But again, it's going to be a TBD. We'll obviously share stuff as we find it, but also keep an eye on social media, whoever you're following that's going to be at D23 Expo. And I know for us, we just jump into the hashtag a lot of times. Like if we're waiting in a line, some of the time we spend in the line is on Twitter going through D23 Expo. If you follow us for Comic-Con stuff, you know that like for conventions, the hashtags are really valuable. Just Twitter in general is really valuable. So even if you're not a Twitter person, you're like, you only do Facebook or Instagram or whatever, we always suggest having a Twitter account, even if it's just for those 3 days of the convention, and then you delete it. But during those 3 days, the information moves so fast and it's helpful to have it. Another thing we want to note about the floor, they do have complimentary bag check. So if you do buy a bunch of stuff, you don't want to carry it around, you're not staying at one of the hotels, it runs from 9 a.m. to 7 a.m., and that is in Hall A, which is down this way over here. So, are facing the convention center. Obviously, I'm pointing, it's to my left, but I was facing the convention center down to the right. It's going to be on that far right side of the convention center. It is complimentary, which is really nice. Most conventions we go to, it's a $5, $10 thing. One thing to note about that, though, if you wait till the end of the day, like if you don't pick up your stuff till 7 p.m. or whenever it's going to be, you have to pick it up by 7:30. A lot of times you can get a huge line. And so even though it was free, it ends up costing you a half hour to pick up your bag. So do think about that. If there's any way to get it out of there before 6, we find that that's usually a better time with bag checks when they have them, particularly when they're complimentary, because a lot more people take advantage of them. Now let's talk about on the floor signings. Signings are very unique as well here. Again, we're waiting on our reservations. Did we win a signing? Did we not win a signing? Will there be virtual queues for all the signings? I'm guessing not all of them, but maybe some of them. Not sure yet. Important to note, though, the artists will only sign D23 specific materials or potentially something you bought at D23 but needing to show a receipt. So they very specifically say, like, don't bring anything from home. Don't bring a comic book from home to try to get somebody to sign here, the Marvel comic or something like that. It has to be something, again, it's one of the nuances of D23 Expo, I know, that throws a lot of our friends that are like only Comic-Con attendees, because it is a very kind of different idea there. Please not bring any personal items. Another kind of wrinkle that's very interesting, we've not seen this anywhere, is the mask policy. So in general, there is no mask policy for the convention. You can wear a mask, not wear a mask, but If you are in certain talent areas where there's a celebrity, they'll have signage and say you have to wear a mask here. And so if I'm in this area where they say it's 6 foot distance, I'm gonna have to have my mask on, and also I'm gonna have to hand the item to like a third party. So like there's gonna be a cast member here, they're gonna take the item and hand it to me. So there's not gonna be direct like physical contact with the celebrity. I would imagine it's gonna be kind of backed up like this and kind of a little triangle here. So kind of interesting. Doesn't sound like there's gonna be any, leaning in and taking a picture of Bob Gurr or anything like that. They're gonna have very strict policies as it relates to that. But that really is the only of the COVID policies I think that really stands out too much in terms of masks or anything on that nature. Any questions or anything?
Night Bodega just reminded people to hit the like button if you like the show or find the show useful and stuff. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, let's talk panels and actually go down this way a little bit over here. So Hall D23 is the big room. It is the Hall H equivalent of D23 Expo. That flows in down at the far end over here. So on one far end, we just talked about bag check. Over here, Hall D23. You enter in E. It's the very last stop at the end there. It takes you underground. You're in a holding tank underground. And then you come up into Hall D23. And that is the big stage. That's where the Marvel, Lucasfilm, Fox stuff is, Pixar animation, things like that. It's where a lot of people want. Now, they've said there'll be some standby, so if you don't get in, there's still hope. But we don't know how much hope. It's a big question mark. Are they going to let 1,000 people in, 2,000 people, 5,000? We're really not sure. We do know in the past, they've said, and they've said again this year, no camping out, no camping gear. In 2019, there was over 100 people in line, many with camping gear before 10 a.m. the day before. So whether it's going to be disbanded, how that's going to be controlled, we don't know. It's one of those question marks, and again, it's where social media comes in, because it becomes a really easy answer when we have Twitter and we see what's actually going on in front of the show. Other halls, though, in stages. We've got the premiere stage, which is kind of their Ballroom 20, to use Comic-Con talk here. Backlot stage, which is kind of their 6A. The archive stage, that's kind of more like the small kind of comic indie room. And then the Hyperion stage is kind of more the performance stage. That's normally been in the arena where you've really got, the big performances. A lot of people kind of makes D23 Expo really unique is some of those kind of Broadway type performances that hit it. Again, reservations, TBD. A lot will come. We wanted to make sure to get this video done before the reservations came out, because we can all kind of assume right now, at least this is how Carmel and I work, we're not getting anything. That's the Carmel and I figure we're not going to win anything. We're going to have to do the whole convention without it. And so then we kind of make our strategy that way. Then if we get things, it's like icing on the cake. It's exciting, etc. The wins in those lotteries in the reservation system can really make your con. It can absolutely make it. But if you don't get them, you just make it be a strategy, really, and do the best you can those other ways. Now, as we talk about kind of some of the outside things, there normally is going to be a lot of cosplay out here. So if you're, wanting to see the cosplay, but at first everybody's going to have to make their way into the building. So how long that's going to take, we don't know. I know for us, it's always like we want to get in the building and then spend a couple hours in there before we even think of leaving. We don't want to end up being caught in a line out here at all. But they're going to be feeding people into these main entrance points. Hall D23, its own line down there, or its own kind of holding tank there, but everything else, again, kind of Comic-Con style. You've got your Hall H, and then you've got your everything else line. So the bulk of us will be in the everything else line, but there's going to be, a good 10 grand that are going to go over probably and be waiting in or have reservations for the Hall D23 side of things there. One thing to note, if you're on the fence about any of the panels, that you win something, you're like, should I go? We found oftentimes the swag to be pretty good at D23, particularly if it's a Hall D23 presentation. So you don't want to go and give up hours of your life for a panel that you don't want to enjoy. But if you are on the fence and you're like, should I go or not? A lot of times the swag might be the thing to push you over. Again, no promises. For all we know, there'll be no swag this year. But we've been pretty impressed with a lot of the swag over the years from panels. A lot of unique stuff, a lot of meaningful stuff, some fun stuff that way. Okay. Questions about the convention center, the floor, the panel rooms, because then I'm going to talk a little bit about just some outside things like parking, some other food items, things like that. But anything that's jumping out to anybody that's in the chat right now about inside the convention center?
Not yet. Night Bodega point or wonders if carpet is going to be an issue this time.
Great question. Why don't we move a little away from the fountain for this next part? Great question. We are so curious. We never would have imagined Star Wars Celebration wouldn't have had carpet. So I guess I'm just not guessing on this one, because I would have bet all the money on like Star Wars Celebration will have carpet. And then when it didn't, it was like, wait, what? So with this one, I'm trying to figure they're not going to have carpet, and then I'm hoping though. Carpet means a lot. If you've not been to a con without carpet, it wears the feet down, I don't know, 5 times as fast. It wears down. So we'll see. We don't know. The fact that they're already moving in, I mean, they've got the Disney jet across the way, the plane that they're going to bring in here over at Toy Story Lot already. So, I mean, they're already working on things here. So I think that's a promising site that they're here a week early, more than a week early setting up. Very, very early getting things together. So hopefully that means carpet is part of that process.
James had a comment. Said the plane is supposed to be in the arena. No panels there? Question mark.
That's one of many. So the whole way that they're using the staging system, for those that haven't attended in the past, they have changed names. Like we kind of have developed like, well, this is where that room's at, this is where that room's at. They have changed the names of these, and I think we talked about in the last talk, and I deleted it from my phone before, but since then. But we were trying to match up, like, well, which one of these was staged, blah blah blah, before. And it's been interesting that the Hyperion stage, at least anything that I have found, has not been really clear exactly where that is fitting. We've loved having the arena in general because it just seats so many people. It's such a great people eater. But as of now, it's feeling like that's not going to be used that way. The biggest thing we were looking for before we started this live, and we thought, well, maybe a couple days later we're going to have it, is we wanted a really comprehensive map of like everything, and we could not find it. So if anybody out there, I'm sure people that are going to be watching this later on in the week are going to find this, and it's going to be very helpful. But I really was hoping to have that in hand. I don't ever like doing visual guides until we like have a map in our hand, because the floor and panel rooms, like the location, such an important part of the thing for me. Honestly, it's hard for me to even think about navigating a con until I have that information. But we don't have it now. And I'm wondering the same thing, James. All right.
I think, let me just double check. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Parking. So they do have parking. It is limited. Not extremely limited, but it is, you know, it's on the limited side. But these hotels also take in parking as well. Oftentimes, it does fill up. They charge a nominal fee. I believe right now it's set at $15. It might be $20. I think it was $15 when last
I thought the convention center is $20, but
20?
the hotels can, just even for overnight guests,
Wow.
I think it's something like $50 if it's Hilton or Marriott.
Yeah, very important. Yeah, the hotels may not take, once you get the heart of the convention, like Saturdays, if they may not even take them, and if they do, it's going to be absorbently expensive. But some of the smaller hotels around the area may have it. Obviously, there's Toy Story lot behind us over here. Again, if you're not very familiar with the area, Toy Story is an actual Disney-owned lot that's for the theme parks. It's on the other side over there. You just cross the street. It's not too far away, all things considered. Mickey and Friends is much more of a walk, but it's doable. We've done it before for the convention and made our way over there. Obviously, you'd ideally be staying somewhere nearby where you can be on foot. This is one of the conventions. We very rarely stay close to a convention, not because we don't want to, but just because it's so expensive. But this is one we do try to stay relatively near the area. Not in one of these big, nice places, but like one of the littler motels kind of across the street or something, so we can walk in. If you're driving in, though, make sure to drive that much earlier. I think my strategy would be to try the convention center parking first. If it was full or if it was just so backed up, I would go to Toy Story and try to make my way across the street there.
But yeah, obviously Toy Story opens based on the park hours, not on the convention hours. And there's also Garden Walk that they usually use for overflow. So there's going to be signs, but yeah, get here early if you're having to park each day.
Definitely. There is a CVS down around the corner. They have some nice like pre-made foods and things like that. There's a Coffee Bean, Tea Leaf. There is a Starbucks still open in the Hilton and in the Marriott. They both get crazy busy. As it says, very limited food options in both hotels. Currently at this moment, it's different. It's obviously a Thursday, not during the con. But if we wanted to eat at this hotel as a grab-and-go type thing, all there is the little pizza place in there. And it's not even a Sparrow's anymore. Like all of the name brand places kind of have faded away around here. So be prepared for some big lines as there's been less options down here. If you are staying nearby, you may want to load up the room with some groceries so that you're not having to waste 45 minutes in line. Obviously, Starbucks is always the biggest time killer of anything, but I know for some people that's like a must, and so if it is, but it's just something to kind of be aware of. Also to note, if you're going to be going over to Disneyland, which a lot of people will, obviously, a lot of people are going to be here, they're going to go to downtown Disney, they're going to go to Trader Sam's, etc. This is another reason you're going to use the Disneyland app, to look and maybe book reservations if they're available over there, and just kind of be able to survey things out there. The Disneyland app is going to come in handy. I think a lot of people watching this video probably will already have had the Disneyland app, but we also know every time we do a D23 Expo, we have a lot of attendees come to us that have been like, we're not Disney people, but we are Marvel people. Or we're not Disney people, but we are Star Wars people. It's been, since those acquisitions, it's been a very different game than like when we were coming in 2011. It was a very different type of thing. Everybody there was fans of, Steamboat Willie, and Oswald and stuff like that. And then starting with those acquisitions, it was like, no, I'm a fan of, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, I'm a fan of Mando, I'm a fan of these things. So we know that some people that are watching this maybe have no interest in Disneyland, but downtown Disney may still be valuable just as a spot to go kind of hang out, grab some food. Either way, download the app. Much like Twitter, if you're not a Disneyland fan, you don't want the Disneyland app, just download it for the weekend, use it. I mean, I would download it ahead of the weekend. Download it now, start getting used to it, use the map function. But just like Twitter, I think those are going to be, to me, the big two tools for D23 Expo. Twitter and the Disneyland app. I think those are like the two things for the phone.
And to clarify, you're referring to reservations for dinners and lunches at the restaurants. You do need reservations to get in the park.
Yeah, if you're
whether
going to
you have
park,
a pass
animal.
Or you have tickets, that's different, but there's those reservations, but I think you're referring to dining reservations.
Yeah, we're not getting into going to the park. That's a whole nother sequence of 17 videos or whatever, so we'll leave that. We're just talking about eating and kind of hanging out. So, all right, so with that, we'll do a last call for any questions here. Otherwise, we've covered what we know. We've actually covered more than we normally cover in the visual guides, because you all have been throwing in some items as well here, so I like that. But if there's anything else anybody wants to throw in before we wrap up here, as I said, anybody that jumps in later in the comments section, obviously we know most people are going to watch this not live, and that's fine. Please feel free to throw comments in the comment section. We'll try to keep an eye out there to answer questions as well. But also, we always encourage everybody in the community that surrounds us is feel free to help each other out with all these things. We never claim to be like the end-all experts on anything. We just, we'll do these videos and try to provide a platform for people to have conversations to help each other.
Night Bodega said, no questions. You did a great job of covering many topics.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Night Bodega. You're always awesome.
And then he also said, I'm sure tomorrow there will be additional questions.
I bet you there will, yeah. And we'll have a lot of them ourselves, I'm sure. So good luck to everybody on the reservation system.
Yeah, definitely. And then Jesus Avila said, how do you reserve a spot for MOG and DSSH?
Mickey's at Glendale and all that. So yeah, they've broken up the stores. Good point. We talked about this in a past show about just kind of the reservation system and also the just how the stores broke down. I think we did that maybe in our first episode of kind of how those. So if anybody watching, it's a great point. We have a lot more talk about some of the specifics of shopping, the shopping experiences, the way the stores break down, all of that on the playlist. So check that out if you're really interested in really getting into more detail with those. But overall, how it sounds like, one is they're breaking it all apart. So like Mickey's at Glendale, there's many more options there. And it sounds like QR codes via the Disneyland app is going to be a big part of that. It sounds like they really don't want those massive lines capped all day long. Now, as we know with like Fast Pass or Express Pass or any of the things from theme parks, when you take people out of line, they got to go somewhere else. So if everything is a virtual queue and we're not in these long lines, ideally we're going from virtual spot to virtual spot and we're all just waiting a half hour instead of 3 hours. But that's got to be a pretty succinct system, and we don't know if it's going to be that yet. So it is very possible we're going to run around in the morning, all of us booking spots for these things, and then in the in-between not be able to get into other things because they're all booked up via virtual. This is another big reason, though, for showing up to the convention, the expo. It seems like it's going to be really beneficial to be there early, meaning like be in those first groups on the floor, because I haven't read anything, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments or in the chat, but I haven't read anything about like holding spots for later in the day, like releasing another group of reservations at noon, let's say, or something. So it sounds like if I want to do one of the Mickeys of Glendale, I got to make my way in there, scan, get a spot. Maybe I get 4 p.m., maybe I get 10 a.m., and then that's going to be it. But it sounds like if I'm getting in there 45 minutes later, maybe all the spots are gone. Now, again, there could be a randomization involved. There could be, hey, do it again after 1 o'clock. It could be like the Disney World Fast Pass situation. Everybody at Rise of Resistance or even Disneyland, like trying to get on their phone and trying to get another shot at it. But nothing has been said that leads me to believe that. It kind of sounds like it's going to be very first come, first serve, getting the virtual queue.
And see if there's anything else.
Great questions, great problems, great.
Yeah, VLR 47 said there's instructions online, but honestly, it doesn't seem straightforward. So yeah, agreed.
I think it's going to be, it'll be interesting. And again, this is where Twitter's going to, and I always feel like this, like, it's the reason we joined Twitter back in 2008, I think. It was like, I went to Comic-Con, had a great time as always, but after Comic-Con, I found that I missed a lot of stuff. And I'm like, where did you all learn all this? And it's like, oh, Twitter. And so I made a Twitter account with my 0, followers, and I started following people. And then that next year, I felt like I got a lot more out of it, because I was like, oh, wow, there was a lot of information there. And it seems to only grow year after year. I feel like more and more information for conventions rolls out via Twitter, because it's just such an easy, real-time place to kind of share stuff.
So Jesus Avila said, perfect, thank you so much. And then VLR 47 said, I believe 6 a.m. and 1 p.m. are reservations.
Oh, really? So they have had it. I did not see that they had announced the time there. 1
He
p.m.
said, also it said you can find the store in app without scanning a QR.
Excellent.
And James also said, they said you can do virtual at 6 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Perfect. Okay. Perfect. That is something that we missed, so thank you. Yeah, in the end, with all of this, hopefully the systems, I know with like Star Wars Celebration, some of us were in our rooms trying to get reservations for things, and they're like crashed, and obviously that's a part of it. Just out of Comic-Con, Apple, you think if anybody's going to have this whole reservation thing and apps and online stuff down, it would be Apple. Their thing was a flaming mess, so a lot of times there's struggles with that when everybody's trying to do it at the same time. So we'll all do the best we can. But again, we'll share information as much as we can. We know a lot of other accounts out there. There is no like SDCC unofficial blog like there's for Comic-Con, where it's a team of people like aggregating everything and sharing it all. So we'll do whatever part we can in things, and hopefully everybody that watches this will do their part sharing information, and hopefully we all make it through and have a great con. What I've always said about D23 Expo, my observation whenever anybody asks me about it, is I feel like it takes the most work to kind of get in and get doing, but I also feel like it's one of the most fun once I'm in there. Like the exhibits I think are amazing, the talent, the displays, the costumes, like I love being in there, and I never want to leave once I'm on the floor. But we have found it very challenging to get on the floor many times, whether it be from the parking side, the security side, the queuing side, all of that, even the seating for the panels in the past. With like Hall D23, like they're seating you, like they're walking you to your seat, and like you sit there, and a lot of things are very challenging, but I do find the content to be really fun, and I find I go back a lot of times throughout the year looking at pictures and being like, oh, that was awesome, that was a blast, that was fun, and a lot of the anxiety wears away over time, and it's just like the good memories, at least for me, that kind of lingers on there.
So VLR 47 said, things already are seeming messy, to be honest, but I am limiting expectations and hoping for 1 or 2 big things.
Yeah, I think 1 or 2 big things is such a great philosophy for any of these cons. I think it really, really is, and that's a great philosophy to go into it with.
And James said, messy is where D23 organization lives.
Well, and hopefully this will be, hopefully these things will run smoother. Hopefully all these reservations are going to help. Hopefully everybody that takes the time to watch this does well and gets the things that are most valuable to them. Hopefully we'll have a great time. And if we don't get the reservation we want for the panel or the experience, hopefully there's something else that pops up. And I know that's been the case for us here, just like San Diego or anywhere else. There's some things we just don't get that we really wanted to do, and then something else happens that we never even knew about that ends up really winning the weekend and being a fantastic memory for us. So,
Night Bodega said, thank you for the stream.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to wrap up there then. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be out at D23 Expo, obviously covering it. We will share what we can. We do have Halloween Horror Nights the night before. So normally, like Thursday, we would be all over this place, like non-stop Thursday evening. This year, we won't be able to be as much, but we will be sharing stuff. If people like tag us on tweets and things like that, we can help share. We'll get what we can before we head out to LA, but we are covering their media night there, and then we'll be back here bright and early Friday morning, Saturday, Sunday, and all throughout the weekend. I don't think we'll be leaving early at all.
Yeah, and pay attention to our playlist, because there are other videos where we discuss some of the earlier information, so that's available
And there'll
already.
be a lot more added to it as
Yeah,
well.
as the weekend goes and stuff. And
All right. We hope you all have a fantastic week. And
Night Bodega said, share all the Killer Clowns merchandise at Horror Nights, please. I'll be there on the 17th.
I can't wait to see the Killer Clown stuff. I hope you have a fantastic time. All right, we're wrapping up here. Until next time, hopefully we'll see you in line at D23 Expo.